The third event that I see is what is called the Gog and the Magog war, which is mentioned in Ezekiel chapter 39, 1 to 19. Now we'll read it and go through it, and it says, "And you, O son of man, prophesy against Gog, and say, Thus says the Lord, Behold, I am against you, O Gog, ruler of Voros, Mosok, Thuval, and I will gather you and will lead you down and will haul you from the extreme north." This is interesting and important, the extreme north, "and will lead you upon the mountains of Israel." So now we have this country from the far north, or this person ruling these countries. "And I will destroy your bow from your left hand and your arrows from your right hand," the complete destruction. "And I will throw you down upon the mountains of Israel." So apparently this army is coming down physically against Israel. "And you shall fall, you and all the ones around you. And the nations with you shall be given to a multitude of birds, to every winged creature." That means that they're dead and they will be carry on for the birds. "And I have given you to all the wild beasts of the plain," basically to be devoured. "Upon the face of the plain you shall fall, for I spoke, says the Lord, the Lord. And I will send fire upon Magog, and the islands shall be inhabited in peace." Now here we have Magog and not Gog, but if this is part of the same attack, or if it's a separate one, I'm not quite sure. But it continues, "And the islands shall be inhabited in peace, and they shall know that I am the Lord. And my holy name will be known in the midst of my people Israel, and my holy name shall not be profaned any longer, and the nations shall know that I am the Lord, the Holy One in Israel. Behold, it is come, and you shall know that it will be, says the Lord, the Lord. This is the day in which I spoke. And the ones dwelling the cities of Israel shall come forth and shall kindle a fire with the weapons, the small shields and shafts and bows and arrows and rods of the hands and the lances, and they shall kindle with them a fire for 7 years. Well, now this hasn't happened. An army in the future would have tanks and all sorts of weapons that they could be using for fuel. "And no way should they take trees from out of the plain, nor should they fell trees from out of the groves, but only the weapons shall they incinerate with fire. And they shall plunder the ones plundering them, and shall despoil the ones despoiling them, says the Lord. And it will be in that day, I will appoint to Gog a place of renown, a memorial in Israel, a cemetery of the ones coming by the sea. And they shall enclose the cleft of the ravine, and shall bury Gog there, and all his multitude. And it shall be called then the cemetery of Gog." This has not happened yet. "And the house of Israel shall bury them, that the land should be cleansed in 7 months. And all the people of the land shall bury them, and it will be to them for a famous place, in which day I was glorified, says the Lord, the Lord. And they shall give orders for men continually for coming over the land to bury the ones being left upon the face of the earth or land, to cleanse it. After the 7 months, then they shall seek. And everyone traveling over the land and seeing the bone of a man shall build a sign by it, until whenever the ones burying shall bury it in the cemetery of Gog. For even the name of the city is cemetery, polyandrion in Greek. and the land shall be cleansed. And you, son of man, thus says the Lord, speak to every winged bird, and to all the wild beasts of the plain, saying, Be gathered together and come. Be gathered from all the surrounding places unto my sacrifice, which I sacrifice to you, a great sacrifice upon the mountains of Israel. And you shall eat meats and drink blood. You shall eat meats of giants, and you shall drink blood of rulers of the earth, of rams and calves and he-goats, and the calves all growing fat. So now we see here this destruction of this army that comes against Israel. Now, the only other place that's Gog and Magog is mentioned is after the 1,000-year reign, when Satan is released from the abyss, which is mentioned in the book of Revelation, that Gog and Magog will come against Israel. So you might consider this happening in two different times, or this is the time that we're living in today where this nation comes, or not until after the 1,000 years. I'm not exactly sure. There's a lot of people look at it in different ways. But one thing I see as far as Magog, it said it was in the far north. Here's a map that I own from a Lambert Bose Bible that I cut out and put it in a frame. And it's 1709 map of the world. And up here we see where Russia is today. It says Magog. That's interesting, I think. And then, so even in 1709, the area of Russia was considered Magog. Now, the country from the far north. Here is a map of the area between Israel and Jerusalem down here with this a blue pointer with the white circle. That's Jerusalem. And up here on top is Moscow in Russia. So it's directly far north. It's the most farthest northern capital to Israel is Moscow. And Moscow is there. A meridian is the line that goes straight up around the world. It's called a meridian. The prime meridian is at Greenwich, England. And here, this meridian that goes up it shows that where Moscow is on the 37.222 longitude, and Jerusalem is on 35.213. Two longitudes difference, two meridians difference between the two. When you get up to this area up in here, the distance between the two meridians, here we have two, is only 50 miles between a meridian. So two meridians would make it 100 miles. So it's almost identically straight up from Jerusalem, Moscow is. So if it is Moscow in Russia, we see information about that. It says in the emerging unholy alliance between Russia, Turkey, and Iran. I'm not sure where I got this. I think it was the Jerusalem Post, but it says less than a week after U.S. President Joe Biden left the Middle East following a visit that focused on the informal Israeli-Sunni Arab alliance in the region, Russian President Vladimir Putin boarded a plane to Iran, the leader of the opposing Shiite axis, and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan of Turkey joined the summit in Tehran. The three regimes represented in Tehran are not friends of the West or Israel. Right now, Russia is attacking Ukraine. a lot of people in Israel are supporting Ukraine, so it's going to cause a problem for Israel with Russia against them. And so that's a possibility. And then Iran is the other one, and then Turkey. Turkey right now is not against Israel per se, although Tayyip Erdogan in the past has been against Turkey, has been against Israel. But currently, and this is May of 2023, that's not the case. But Iran, that's a different story. They're constantly accusing Israel of all sorts of evils, threatening them almost every day. And here it has, in 2023 April, Iran threatens to destroy Israeli cities as regional tensions simmer. Iran threatened to destroy the Israeli cities of Tel Aviv and Haifa should Israel commit the slightest mistake against the Islamic Republic, according to a Tuesday presidential statement. Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi issued the warning during a military parade to mark the country's National Army Day in Tehran. Well, so now we have the war drums being beaten by Iran, but Iran has also threatened them in other ways, and we see that now they are approaching to be a nuclear power. Iran approaches the nuclear threshold. As hopes for restoring the Iran nuclear deal fade, Iran is faced with a choice: break out, build nuclear bombs, or hedge, approach but do not cross the nuclear threshold. Which will Iran choose? And how will the Gulf states and the West respond? They say that today that the Israelis, that Iran has enough nuclear material to make 3 bombs. So I believe that this is the next thing that's going to happen, a war that is going to be mainly Russia, maybe Turkey and Iran and other countries are going to come down against Israel, and they will be destroyed. And when they're destroyed, you're talking about 2 major Islamic nations, Turkey and Iran. When they're destroyed, if you're a Muslim and all you have ever seen is Israel destroy everything of the Muslims, I think there'll be a tremendous defection from the Muslim religion, as the last section had with the Christians. But this defection of the Muslims will be an amazing thing, and Israel will then become the world power, I believe. It may have armaments or God in a way that makes them so powerful that everybody will fear them to do anything against them. Now, what's important about that is that there's a good possibility that Israel, once it has this power, that it will probably have to fight against the Muslims that are in Lebanon to the north of Israel, and the Palestinians in the West Bank and in the Gaza Strip. And after they are all defeated or pushed out of Israel, then Israel could very well either build or create a temple in Jerusalem, because now they can, and I think they will do that. They would probably want to do that. They could very easily take the Dome of the Rock Mosque, and we'll go more into this later as we get into the next section. So our next section is the tribulation, and quite a few things in the tribulation. The 7 years, 2 sections of 3.5 years, 42 months, 1,260 days, a man of sin, Daniel's man of sin, the temple site sin sits as God, the two witnesses, and so forth, the assemblage and the beast. So with that, we will now go more into detail into event number 4, the tribulation.